Welcome to Black Perspectives with Lady T. That's me, where your words will attract a strong mind or offend a weak one. Thank you for joining me today to my very first episode of Black Perspectives. This is a very special episode of Black Perspectives because I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Michael Breeland. Yay!
Thank you, Lady T.
All
Pleasure
right.
to be here.
Thank you. I am so glad that Mr. Breeland is here with us today. Most of our city knows Mr. Breeland, but for those of you who do not know him, Mr. Breeland is a family therapist, a youth therapist. He has been in the therapy business for over 33 years and counting. He is my colleague on the York City School Board for about 14 years. He has a myriad of experience under his belt. He worked as a York Alcohol and Drug Services, known as Stepping Stone. Also delivered services to Hannah Penn, William Penn, the Smith students. I am not doing his background justice at all. And I just wanted to say again how thrilled I am to have you here. Thank you for coming to my studio and spending time with us today. Mr. Breeland has been nominated to be a panelist for the African American Leadership Roundtable Conference that will be coming up on September the 8th at Cornerstone Baptist Church. There's registration on Eventbrite, eventbrite.com. Go there now after the show. I want you to finish watching my show and register for this free event. It is Black people coming together to discuss what ails York, how we can fix York. The topics will be education, workforce development, economic community development, politics, diversity, inclusion, and more. And Mr. Breeland was nominated because there are characteristics that we were looking for in our selection for panelists. There will be local panelists as well as nationally recognized and statewide recognized speakers that will be joining us. But the characteristics that we look for are knowledge of subject matter, the character, advocacy, public speaking, understanding the seriousness of representing the African American community in York. So having said that, just to tell you a little bit more about the African American Roundtable 2 Leadership Conference, again, that will be on September the 8th at Cornerstone Baptist Church. It is a free event. Lunch will be provided. And this was birthed out of the concern, the deep concern that a collection of the constituency, the citizens here in the city of York and the county as well, are concerned with where direction that we're going. Where are we going in York? We are going through a lot of turmoil, it seems like, in our school district. We want to talk about the wealth gap, the disparity. When you look at 60% of the city of York is rental properties. And I was startled by that. And we have a school district that is in recovery and trying to build our way out of that. We're making incremental strides. And for those of you that do not know, I'm also newly elected member to the York City School Board. And so I'm learning a lot, and I just thank you, Mr. Breeland, for taking me under your wing and just showing me a lot of the ropes. But having said that, it's an opportunity for African Americans to come together and try to solve the issues that really plague us in this city. There's no excuse to sit home. It's on a Saturday. Registration begins at 8:15, and it'll go through until 4 in the afternoon. But I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the nationally recognized speaker, guest speaker that will be speaking on the piece on education. Her name is Dr. Jamie Bracey. She is an educational psychologist at Temple College of Engineering, responsible for leading the university's new Center of Inclusive Competitiveness. Dr. Bracey's teams champions culturally validated practices in K through 12 STEM learning and have achieved national recognition for pre-college programs in engineering and computer science for African American and Hispanic Latinx students. And her accolades go on. And please feel free to visit on Facebook the event page for the African American Leadership Roundtable Conference. We do have an event page that you can get more information. There are biographies of all of the speakers that will be there on September the 8th. Also, go to Black Perspectives, which is yours truly, with Lady T Facebook page. And I also have the more information there that you could take a look at it. There are going to be several topics of discussion with regards to the education. Now listen to this, because these topics are near and dear to each person's heart, whether you have a child in school, whether you have a grandchild in school, whether you're a taxpayer, whether you're just a concerned person for the well-being of our students, because quite all too often that we witness the school to prison pipeline. So we want to fix this. These are our children, and I think these topics really hit home to each and one of us. Now listen, family engagement and accountability, personal and academic development plans, the whole child, a well-rounded approach to education, technology and training, closing the achievement gap, disproportional discipline, the recruitment and hiring of Black teachers and independent schools. Now, tell me that any one of those topics, any one of you out there have discussed around your dinner table. Although I would love to spend the next 2 hours talking to you about each one of these topics, because you're expert on any one of the topics, we're going to just focus on a few that you may expound upon. There are issues with our school district that we are far behind. We've had this issue with testing, and we're low. There's a poverty level of students in enrollment, those that are below the poverty level, and it seems like family income and achievement kind of work hand in hand, and there seems to be an achievement gap that we've suffered in our school district for many years. Give some perspective on what are your thoughts and how we can close that gap. How can we come ahead of that, especially in a time where our previous governor, Corbett, had seriously slashed funds. Talk to me about that.
Well, you hit on the first point I was going to talk about. First of all, in order for us to close the achievement gap, we need to have resources. And when Corbett cut the budget, we had to lay off a number of teachers and other school personnel. We had to end programs. It was basically, we were stripped down to the bare skeleton. First of all, you have to have an equitable system in this state where financial resources are allocated to the districts, and you have inner city students who have the most need, who have the less resources. And usually that is done through our tax base. And I think that we need to find a new way of allocating resources to those students in those districts that need them.
I agree.
And it seems that you have wealthier students who are given the most resources, and those students who are impoverished given the least resources. So resources is the first
Okay.
when they talk about closing the achievement gap. The other area that I think is very important in closing the achievement gap is taking a look at your data. And when I say looking at your data, if you have a underserved, underutilized group of students, when you disaggregate the data, you need to make certain that these are the students who we are not reaching. And then when you identify those students who you are not reaching, it is important for you then to take a look at what has been done, what research has been done that will lead you and guide you into developing programs that would reach those students. And I'm going to talk about an initiative that we had a few years back within the New York City School District. And it was launched from the African American male and Latino male task force. And it was a group of people that came together from the city. And we took a look at what could we do to make these young men feel a part of the educational system and also to benefit from the educational system. So from that, we developed a group for these young men to create some camaraderie, to create a positive peer culture that pushed for academic engagement, success, and sustainability. And what we found with that group of young men is when we initially started that program, many of those young men have gone on to do great things.
Wow.
They graduated from high school, they went on to college, and they are doing great things with their life. And I think what that provided them was access to information that they would not previously have had. And I remember taking those young men down to Philadelphia University where they had an all-day conference that really focused on African American and Latino men.
Wow.
And they participated in workshops, they were given information, and I still have some of those pictures and workshops from those young men. And we got to meet Harper Hill, or Hill Harper, however he
Hill
was.
Harper.
And there were a lot
I have his book downstairs, yes.
and he signed and autographed that book for a number of our young men.
I think it
who
was
were there.
Letters from My Father.
Letters from, yes. And don't remember the title exactly, but I have the book in my library. And when I went there, I purchased that book, and I just started giving that book to young African American and Latino men because I felt there was something in that book that they could benefit from. So we have to give them access to what education is and what it can do and what it can provide them. So that was some of what we did. And I remember how we came about the name, the New Hustle.
Yep.
And one of the young men who was in the group started talking, and I don't want to throw no names out, but he knows who he is. And he's doing great things with his life now. And he was having a conversation that day when we were coming up with this name. And he said, you know what? I think we should be called the New Hustle. And I could see that and remember that dialogue just like it was yesterday. And he said, I'm going to tell you why I think we should be called the New Hustle. Because our old hustle was out there gang banging, selling drugs, and being in the streets. And then he said, our new hustle is getting in, hitting our books, having an education, making our families proud. And when he gave that speech, it was unanimous from every young man and the mentors in that room that this is going to be our name, the New Hustle.
That's right.
And we even had a T-shirt that was designed.
Oh, you did? Oh, my goodness.
And I still have my T-shirt.
Do you really?
And I'm going to wear it for nostalgia purposes.
That's right.
But the thing that strikes me the most is that when given the opportunity, when pushed to do better and to show their greatness, our young men achieve and they soar high. And I was so proud to be a part of that. And one of the things, we had Mr. Guy, we had Mr. Claire Sexton, we had a lot of people who were really concerned about the development of these young people. And they gave their all. We gave our all. Sharon Ritter, and the list goes on. We had guest speakers. We had Mr. James Morgan, who came and spoke for our group. We had a lot of,
which I'm sure he was very happy to do.
Mr.
So.
Brian Wade, who stepped up to help pull in these young men. And the expertise and the resources are there in our community. I think we have to access them. And I think the only way that we're going to close that achievement gap is by letting our students know the truth about that achievement gap.
That's right.
This educational system that was set up for us was really never set up for us to be successful. And there were a lot of things that were thrown out there. I'll call those things barriers that were thrown out there to prevent us from reaching our greatness.
I'm going to stop you right there, because that is a good reason to come to this conference on September the 8th. These are the real issues that we have to talk about in our community. The barriers that we have faced, just even for being African American, that barriers that we face individually in our everyday lives, but the barriers that our children face. And, you know, this is a great segue into what I'd like you to expound on next. When I saw, listen to you talking about the new hustle and the individuals that were integral in helping develop these young men, correct, that were in this group. When the names that I heard you call out there, these are African American men that played an important part, as well as yourself, with reaching and building a relationship with these young black men. Tell me the importance of recruitment of black teachers, and not only black teachers, perhaps black male teachers. And give me your thoughts about that as it relates to our black children.
Recruitment of African American teachers or black and brown teachers is very pivotal, and it's very important. And I want to say this. It's not just about the recruiting of them. It's who are you sending to recruit? So when you're going out to these college fairs, and
hold on. This is why I am so glad that you are here, because you bring it, you give a great perspective, and you are unapologetically truthful. Go ahead, I won't interrupt.
It's who you're sending to recruit these teachers. So if I know that 90% of my student population is black and brown, I will send my black and brown administrators, and I would send them out to meet these potential teachers and explain to them, this is who we are, this is where we're located, these are our challenges. And not only do I want to offer you a job, but I also want to ask you this important question. What do you think you can bring to the table to help turn the educational system around? Because when we were being educated during the times of segregation, academic achievement for African Americans was higher when we were being taught by our own. There was some cultural relevance to what was being taught and why it was being taught. And when I look back on my education and where I went to school, I look back and say, hey, I went to Lincoln University. Langston Hughes graced these halls. Thurgood Marshall graced these halls. And a lot of other greats that had graced these halls. And one of the things that I will never forget is that when I graduated from Lincoln University with my master's degree in 1992, the Honorable Mrs. Rosa Parks was one of our guest speakers.
Wow.
To be connected to that history and to have such an iconic figure like Rosa Parks talking about her struggle, talking about our struggle as a people, and why it's very important for us to make certain that we always keep our minds sharp and never, never, never allow our children to take their education for granted. And when I go through our schools, it's without question, I go into classrooms where children, they are reporting to me, are behavioral problems. And I go in and I talk to these students, and one of the things that I discovered is that these students do not feel engaged. They do not feel part of the process. And they feel as though the class is being taught in a boring manner. So how do we engage our children in a way that's going to make learning fun and exciting for them?
That's right.
I worked at Manitou, and there were
For
times...
how many years?
I was at Manitou with them for 18 years. And these were the disruptive youth that were sent from York City and every other surrounding school district in the county. And they were on probation, and these kids, the furthest thing from their mind was education. Not that these students were not intelligent, because I met some of the most brightest students at Manitou. And I remember talking to a young man one time, and he went and took the SAT. He said, I'm going to take this SAT because they want me to take it, and I'm going to take it. Well, he didn't prep for it, didn't study for it, but he walked away from that SAT with a 1230.
Whoa.
And him and I would talk about his potential. And he would say to me, Mr. Breeland, you better not use that P word. I said, what? Potential? You have potential. And I'm going to let you know that you have potential. And it's about educators being unapologetic about reaching out and engaging our young people and letting them know you can do anything that you put your mind to. However, you just have to be given a little swift kick in the behind sometimes to keep your focus. But you know what? That's tough love. Because when that tough love gets you to that next level, you're going to appreciate that it was there. And there are many students that I encounter from Manitou in their adult life who are having their children and they're doing well. And they say, Mr. Breeland, thank you for not giving up on me.
I'm going to let that be. That's a great way to end that note. I am just so grateful for the work that you put in for our students. And I really do mean this, that I've learned so much from you thus far. I've only been on the board since December. And the input that you give, the feedback that you give, the critique that you give is so valuable, not only to the district, but to our students, to administrators and the teachers, but to your fellow board members as well. I'm soaking it in. I am learning a lot from you. I really, we as a collective appreciate the work that you're doing. Hopefully that you're many, many years away from retirement, that you are, we won't talk about school board. Hopefully, and this is for selfish reasons, we want to have you around for as long as possible. So I do want to say this, that just wrapping up today's session, that I hope you understand the importance of really showing up on September the 8th to the African American Roundtable, Leadership Roundtable Conference, which will be held at Cornerstone Baptist Church. That address is 639 South Pershing Avenue. What used to be Shiloh Baptist Church, but it is, Shiloh is on the west end now, and now Cornerstone occupies that space at the corner of Pershing and Cottage Place. And Pastor Mark Kearse is the pastor there, but he has been gracious enough to give us this building to utilize for that day. There will be lunch provided. It is a free event. There will be great speakers. I will, in upcoming shows, be talking to other representatives from each committee. My next will be economic and community development. We also have diversity and inclusion and the political committee. We are on a big election year. We have Governor Wolf and what's the other one? Wagner, that are running for governor. Wolf on the Democratic ticket, Wagner on the Republican ticket. So I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'll tell you who not to vote for, and that's for don't vote for Wagner. So in upcoming episodes, look forward to hearing more about that. But please go to eventbrite.com, register for this free event. You must register to attend. Okay, we need to know a good number of to provide because food will be provided. Again, Dr. Jamie Bracey, who is the educational psychologist at Temple College of Engineering, will be the key speaker for the educational piece. So again, Mr. Breeland, thank you so much for stopping by my studio. Yes, Lady T. Hey, that's me. Glad that you're here. Thank you so much. And you all stay tuned for the next episode. Please visit my discussion page. Let's talk about this session and what are your thoughts? What are some of the things that you'd like to see or hear discussed at this conference? And let me know if you're going to attend, okay? And if I can answer any questions for you, please feel free to email me. I do have my email link, which is ladyttmorgan@gmail.com, and visit my Facebook page at Black Perspectives with Lady T. Good night. Love you all. Mwah. Bye-bye.
I like that.